Kyiv launched what is believed to be the biggest cross-border offensive against Russia since the outbreak of the Moscow-Kyiv war in February 2022. Ukrainian forces have reportedly advanced up to 30 kilometers into Russian territory, seizing control of 28 towns and villages in Russia's Kursk border region. While some media outlets refer to this move as an invasion, most have termed it a surprise incursion, highlighting the suddenness and scale of the attack. This latest offensive, described by international observers as the most significant attack by Ukrainian forces since Russia's attack, has sent shockwaves through the global community. It is also the most significant by a foreign army since World War II, according to some experts, underscoring the magnitude of the conflict's escalation. With this offensive, Ukraine has demonstrated its capability to strike deep into Russian territory, a development that could potentially alter the trajectory of the war. As Ukraine pushes deeper into Russian territory, the European Commission has expressed its unequivocal support for Kyiv's right to defend itself, even if that means striking targets within Russia. Peter Stano, a spokesperson for the European Commission, stated that Ukraine is within its rights to strike the enemy wherever necessary, reinforcing the bloc's support for Kyiv.
We think that Ukraine is fighting a legitimate defensive war against an illegal aggression, and in the framework of this legitimate right to defend itself, Ukraine is entitled to hit the enemy wherever it finds necessary on its territory, but also on the territory of the enemy.
However, behind the scenes, a more complex and potentially destabilizing narrative is unfolding, one that suggests that Western powers, particularly the United States, may be plotting to oust Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky from power. According to reports from Russian intelligence and various media outlets, dissatisfaction with Zelensky is reportedly growing among the American political elite. This discontent is said to be particularly strong among those who are increasingly skeptical of the deliberate spending of billions of dollars on military aid for Kyiv. Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service, SVR, claims that the US administration is actively exploring options to replace Zelensky with a leader who is more manageable and less corrupt. This also comes on a day when Putin has already warned Kyiv's regime, saying that it has embarked on the path of extermination of the Ukrainians themselves.
The leaders of the Kyiv regime are not only committing crimes against the Russian people, but in fact have embarked on the path of extermination of the Ukrainians themselves, the Ukrainian people, who, to all appearances, no longer consider themselves their own. The losses of the armed forces of Ukraine are dramatically increasing for them, including among the most combat-ready units, which the enemy is moving to our border. The enemy will undoubtedly receive a worthy response, and all of our objectives will undoubtedly be achieved.
This alleged plan is reportedly motivated by a growing belief within the US government that Zelensky's leadership may be hindering the West's broader strategic goals in the region. The intelligence service has named Arsen Avakov, the former Minister of Internal Affairs of Ukraine, as a potential successor. Avakov is known for his close ties with Ukrainian nationalist formations and his connections with European leaders, making him an appealing candidate for those in the West who seek a leader more aligned with their interests. This revelation has added a new layer of complexity to the ongoing conflict. While Ukraine is engaged in one of its most daring military operations to date, the leadership in Kyiv may be facing a crisis of confidence from its most important international supporters. The possibility that the West is considering a change in leadership in Ukraine raises questions about the future direction of the war and the stability of the Ukrainian government. The claims of a potential Western-backed ouster of Zelensky come on the heels of a similar report last month by Sputnik, a Russian state-controlled news agency that even mentioned the EU as a co-conspirator. According to Sputnik, declassified documents from Russia's SVR, Foreign Intelligence Service, indicated that both the US State Department and the European External Action Service, EEAS, were increasingly concerned about the declining trust in Zelensky's administration among the Ukrainian population. The report suggested that Western officials fear that Zelensky's administration may be losing legitimacy, a development that could undermine the West's efforts to maintain a united front against Russia. Despite these concerns, the West has so far continued to publicly support Zelensky, largely due to the lucrative war profiteering schemes tied to his rule. However, according to Sputnik, there was growing evidence that Washington and Brussels were actively searching for a viable alternative to Zelensky. Incidentally, Russian President Putin had also predicted earlier during his Vietnam visit that Zelensky would be ousted by Western powers by the beginning of next year, attributing their collective failure from the war to him.
It's written in black and white. There is a constitutional court decision from 2015 that directly states the president's term is 5 years and that's it. What are we talking about? The West simply does not want to change him now. The time has not come. I've said this before, but it seems obvious to anyone. They will pin all unpopular decisions on him, including lowering the draft age, and then they will replace him. I think this will happen somewhere in the first half of next year.
Putin's comments highlight the precarious position in which Zelensky finds himself. As he leads Ukraine through one of the most intense phases of the war, he must also contend with the possibility that his most powerful allies may be plotting his downfall. The implications of a Western-backed effort to remove Zelensky could be far-reaching. If the US and its allies decide to replace the Ukrainian president, it could signal a shift in their approach to the conflict, potentially opening the door to negotiations with Russia. On the other hand, such a move could also destabilize Ukraine's government at a critical juncture, complicating efforts to repel Russian forces and regain control of occupied territories. For now, Kyiv continues its military campaign against Russian forces, pushing deeper into enemy territory and demonstrating its resolve to defend its sovereignty. Yet, as the conflict rages on, the political battle for Ukraine's leadership may prove to be just as pivotal in determining the country's future. Whether Zelensky can survive both the military and political challenges he faces remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: the stakes have never been higher for Ukraine, its people, and its president.